Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Town Council meeting for October 2nd. Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Up to you, Twyla.
Okay. Councillor Lunt?
Here.
Councillor Ward?
Here.
Councillor La Rochelle?
Here.
Councillor Brunel?
Here.
Councillor Colby?
Here.
And Councillor Albert?
He has an absence. He has a
Take a motion later.
conflict, right?
And Councillor Crawford?
Same thing.
All right, so is there a motion?
Yes, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Need a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
5-0. Passed. They are excused. Next item is good news and recognition.
Anybody having anything to express for good news recognition, please step forward. The one thing that I had was participated over the course of the last weekend for the 10th annual Dempsey Challenge. Anybody that hasn't actually participated in that event, it's extremely cool for a great cause. I would encourage you to do so in the future. Thank you. Anybody else? Back to you, Twyla.
Public hearing, the Downtown Revitalization CDBG grant in the amount of $300,000.
Tracy Stuber, Economic and Community Development Director. As part of the CDBG Community Development Block Grant Downtown Revitalization project, we need to hold a public hearing and take comments in that as we're going through our phase 2. The town of Lisbon has been approved for a $300,000 grant for the Lisbon Village area. We're working on the budget and the scope of work right now with the engineer, and this is just the next step as we move forward. So I just open up for any comments or anything that people would like to have or any questions.
Does that need to circulate through the rest of the room?
It has. I think Miriam's the only last one to sign it.
Perfect.
Yep.
That said, I'll open up the public hearing on this topic. Anybody wishing to speak? Come on out, Dot.
Dorothy Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls. Is this a new block grant? Because there was one about 6 or so months ago, or is this a continuation of that one?
I think it depends on which project you're listening to. We've been talking about it probably for close to 6 months, so it may be the one coming to fruition.
I think we had to wait for the state to actually appropriate the money for it was the issue.
The previous one that we had was actually down in Lisbon Falls, down at the 196,
Right.
by where the new rusty lanterns going in.
Right.
This one is a new one that's we've been working on for a while, that Tracy has, and this one's going to be for the village, so it's out the opposite. So there's actually 2 separate grants that we've actually got.
Right. Well, I know that some months ago we got a grant for Lisbon Village, so this is that same grant
Yes.
that
We applied for it.
working on.
This is the
Okay, because I
Correct.
wondered, because I knew that.
Aware that there is quite a time frame.
There is. What we're going through now is the phase 2. We have to go through, it is a process. I mean, we're not looking even for this project to happen until next spring before we even put it out to bid. And part of the phase 2 is a public hearing. And from there we go through historic preservation, and we get environmental review, clearance, and there's just, again, it is a process, and this is part of that process, but it is the same $300,000 that we were awarded, yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Seeing no movement, close the public hearing. Next, Twyla.
Audience participation and response for agenda items.
Anybody wishing to express anything that's on the agenda to the council, please step forward.
I'm Don Fellows, as you know, member of the Planning Board, Vice Chairman of the Planning Board currently. And I just wanted to remind counselors who may not have had a chance to thoroughly look at their packet. There is a memo that came from the town council dated September 28th, written by me at the behest of the chairman. And this particular memo urges you, in the discussion of the medical marijuana, to hold off any lifting of moratorium for a short period of time. And I'd like to point out that, as you're aware, the moratorium specifically mentions the opt-in requirements of the newly enacted amendments, public laws 409, 447, and 452, which deals with both medical and adult use marijuana. Since the portion of the statutes that deal with medical marijuana were not treated as emergency legislation, they will not become effective until Thursday, December 13th. That's 90 days after the legislature has adjourned. Between now and then, without the moratorium, applicants for activities dealing with medical marijuana will be dealt with in the same manner as previously allowed. In our town's case, there is minimal regulation due to the seemingly ever-changing set of rules handed down from the state level and heretofore general lack of clarity in dealing with the matter. That was the findings of ours the other night. I know, Councilor Ward, you attended, and we talked about it at length. That language is specifically mentioned in our moratorium, and it also reaffirms that the opt-in provision must be physically acted on by the council. Since that period of time, since the other night, the planning board did work on the matter a lot. I know Councilor Brunel has a good-sized interest in the matter. And we have a timetable that we put forth in that memo that's in your agenda. But I think that is a reasonable expectation of a time frame that might be useful in passing or lifting the moratorium. And so does the planning board. On a personal matter, I would like to say that I personally appreciate Councilor Brunel's interest in the matter, in the interest of businesses that want to establish, particularly his business, that want to establish in town. But I want to also caution the council and Councilor Brunel that he approaches conflict of interest very closely by discussing this as a councilor in either workshop or at the council tonight, for example. I suggest that it would be appropriate for him to stand down and act as any other citizen of this town would, comment when allowed, and to participate further in any other fashion formally is definitely, in my view, a conflict of interest. So that's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Anybody else for any other item on the agenda? To Don's point, there is information that was missing from the original packet that went out regarding the information from the planning board, because that meeting was still in attendance that night. You have the information from legal, and what was the other item, Diane? I forget.
Just that's it.
Those are the two items. So those are here for everybody to be able to see tonight. Seeing nobody else, we'll move right on to Twyla.
Okay. And we're moved to the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. Seeing none, Order 2018-209 to approve the municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants, number 27 for $9,860.75, number 28 for $183,436.56, number 29 for $18,213.67, number 30 for $8,187.64, number 31 for $678,617.66. The school payable and payroll warrants, number 1901 for $205,174.65. The workshop minutes of September the 13th and the minutes of September the 18th. And to schedule a public hearing on October 16th for the general assistance amendments to Chapter 14, Appendix A, overall maximums, Appendix B, food maximums, Appendix C, housing, and Appendix D, utilities, plus the approval of the annual Senior Plus Memorandum of Understanding for the meals at MTM.
I need a motion.
Make a motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Yeah,
Please.
was there any changes to the That we're all good?
Yep.
Right, right, perfect.
All in favor?
Order passed 5-0.
Next, Twyla.
Under Council Orders and Ordinances and Resolutions, Order 2018-210, the Androscoggin Land Trust Memorandum of Agreement.
Hello, my name is Shelley Kruszewski. I'm the Executive Director at the Androscoggin Land Trust.
And my name is Jim Pross. I'm an attorney at Skelton Taylor and Abbott and a 9-year board member of the Androscoggin Land Trust, past president for 2 terms.
And we'll just tell you, the major changes that happened in the MOU. But quickly, I'll just give you a very brief overview of the Androscoggin Land Trust. We are a conservation organization. We conserve land along the Androscoggin River, currently over 5,000 acres from Lisbon to Canton. Our office is located in Auburn. I grew up in Durham, right next door. And so the core of our work is stewarding those properties, and we also spend a lot of time just finding ways to get people outside on the property, making sure there's public access and maintaining trails, and just getting people outside. And just to give you a quick overview of our relationship with the town of Lisbon, we conserve 667 acres total in the town of Lisbon. Of that, we own 105 acres, and then protect with easements 562 acres.
So the land in Lisbon is really important to the overall work that we do. We have conservation values, not only around public access and maintaining open space, but providing places for people to hunt and fish and access points along the river. We also provide areas for agricultural easements within the town of Lisbon, and are glad to be taxpayers on some of that land, so thank you very much. The substantive changes to the Memorandum of Understanding are with regard to what was called the Town of Lisbon Island. Several years ago, a dear friend of the Land Trust and fellow board member of ours, John Ackerman, resident of Durham, passed away. And he was a landscape architect and had a very storied career designing all of the trails at Wolf Neck State Park, for example, and also at the Durham River Park. He was a dedicated conservationist who was appointed by the Land Trust to be the steward for what was the town of Lisbon Island. And he was the person going out there to make sure that people weren't throwing keg parties and things like that on the island, and making sure that there were no invasive species of plants that were taking things over. So the Land Trust, after his passing, wanted to make sure that his contributions to conservation in the Androscoggin watershed were recognized adequately. And as the owners of that island, we've endeavored to change the name to John Ackerman Island. So one of the major updates there to the MOU is to recognize what we're endeavoring to rename as John Ackerman Island. And having the town's blessing on that renaming by the signing of this MOU would be a big step in the right direction for that. Some of the other changes are obviously updating the executive director. Shelley's been with us for 2 years now, Shelley. We're really fortunate to have her, and of course updating the town manager information. Some of the other changes are less substantive, but I really seek to memorialize the understanding that we're working with the town for any future use of that island. It is accessible to the public and paddlers coming down from the river. It doesn't see a lot of activity necessarily, but we protect land in perpetuity, which means forever. So that's a big responsibility, and it's great to be on the same page with the town of Lisbon as we go forward in the work that we do. And so we're here today to ask for your support on the substances of the changes of the MOU, and hopefully we'll go along with that.
Now, just point out one of the other changes is that we made the MOU self-renewing. So we just wanted to formally show our commitment to our relationship with the town of Lisbon and that open communication.
If you guys have any questions about that, we'd be happy to talk further about our work.
Please.
We know about the island, but what other acreage in Lisbon? Is it riverfront, or is it actually other areas?
Yeah, so we conserve forests, wetland, farmland, land for habitat and resource services. So in the town of Lisbon, there are 2 farms that we conserve, and the island.
Good deal. And that's where the bulk of the acreage is.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3 farms.
3
in
farms.
an
The
island.
bulk of the acreage is on the farms themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at least one of the farms I can speak to, beautiful property, it's a riverfront property. Catherine Breton was a benefactor of our organization and owned the land prior to her passing, and she did give the property to the land trust in her will. And that's really a special place. It's got waterfront property, and it is a working farm. We do lease that land at a pretty good rate to a farmer who's actively been farming it for years and years and years. And I believe his farming activity preceded her passing. So we're happy to be a part of that story of that property and to ensure that it's a forever farm. Protecting those spaces and making them available for agriculture is one portion of the work that we do as a land trust.
Good. And the other question I had is, so the island was just always known as the Lisbon Island, so it didn't really have any other, it was never named after anybody else or anything like that. It's just basically on the record as the Lisbon Island.
That's what it's always been
Okay.
known as. And John Ackerman was really, a dedicated individual within our organization who had a higher calling, I think, toward the environment. And his work as a landscape architect, as I mentioned at Wolf Neck State Park, is viewed by millions of people. So I think paying tribute to him, he was a resident of Durham, a committed person over there. He was one of the founders of the Durham Conservation Organization, Conservation Commission, helped found the Durham River Park, and was really instrumental in our ability to conserve what was the Lisbon Island and to see to it that it was not being abused by people. So we're proud of the work that he did, and we want to recognize him.
That's good. Thank you.
Just a question on logistics, I guess. The responsibilities, you go to the point of listing persons' titles, both Shelley and Diane. How necessary is the name on that when you have the title to be able to make that if it's going to be something that's out there in perpetuity? I don't have a problem with signing here, but why bother to put somebody's name in it if it's going to be something that automatically renews?
I think that's, yeah.
I mean, that's a fair point. I think that any time there needed to be an update in terms of, if Diane were to leave or if Shelley were to leave to work for another organization, this is something we can come back to. If the names are, I don't think it would affect the validity
Of what
the
you're talking
document
about by
itself.
listing the title, right?
Yeah, and this is precatory language, as it clarifies at the end. This is not a formal undertaking, but these are things that we're striving to achieve in our relationship with the town of Lisbon and with our relationship to the island that we're conserving.
Then I would recommend just strike the names, and I would entertain a motion if anybody else has any other questions first. Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Sorry. Second.
No second.
All in favor?
Order passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity to just speak with you and to continue our relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item?
Order 2018-211, Sidewalk Plowing Program changes.
Tom Martin, Public Works Director. Mr. Chairman, councilors, good evening. So one of the programs we put into place last year, I believe, was the sidewalk plowing, and we subcontracted that out. And it was a $50,000 per year award for 5 years. They ended up adding Kelly Park, Premier Drive, and Champaign Lane to that, so it basically went over our budget. So the operations manager and I sat down, we just went through, and we actually found some sidewalks that we don't even really plow that was on the list. So I just wanted to take those off to balance that line item, and I thought you ought to be aware of it in case people call. But and you had the list in front of you, or did have?
Yeah, Upland.
So Upland Road, right? We've, as my understanding is, we never plowed that section. So it was on the original list, but we never plow it.
Just to be correct, that's an extension of the walking path, right?
Correct.
From up the upland part of it.
And the Ferry Road, along the Ferry Road, there's 1,500 feet that there's really even no sidewalk there, real sidewalk. So we basically plow it off with a plow anyway, so we don't run the sidewalk tractor up there. And there's a little section along Main Street from basically where the Railroad Cafe is along that side. It's so narrow you can't fit the sidewalk tractor on it anyway, so we don't take care of that. So that got us actually below where we are. So we have about 470 feet of sidewalk we could pick up if that so happens. So.
Okay.
And so these were not being done last year that you know of?
No.
And our bid is actually done on footage, right? As far as for plowing of the sidewalks or cleaning is basically based on footage?
Yeah, because obviously when we went over, we prorated the per footage, so it would be, right, it would be whatever that minus the 470 is, so.
Have we gone and checked it out? I'm not picking anybody, but if we actually weren't doing these last year, is there any of the areas that we're also not doing it? These are the only ones that you pretty much came up with?
Well, we'll obviously take a closer look at that
Yeah.
this year, and I haven't physically gone out and measured them. I can
Yeah.
now, so I will do that, measure all the sidewalks to make sure it's accurate to what our list says.
I have no problem. I just want to make sure everybody's being treated fairly, that's
Sure.
all. If we weren't doing them last year, it's just
Agreed.
what it is.
Being year 2 of the contractors or anything, but general, how's it going?
Well, I did have a discussion with the contractor about redundancy because he broke down a couple times last year and so basically did go unplowed. So I told him he had to have some sort of a backup plan this year and he's supposed to get that to me. So.
Okay. And from his perspective?
Yeah, he said he would. And he thought it went well. It was just, he was glad to see this one go just because they tried and they've actually tipped their rig over a couple times. So
they're good with the scope change to be able to get on. Okay.
Right.
Any other questions of Tom?
No, I guess the biggest thing is just make sure we renew it. I mean, to keep checking, make sure that, that we are just plowing areas that we need to be plowed, that's all.
Yeah.
Or clean the snow boat or however you want to go about it.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we allow the changes.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Or Councilor Burnell. All in favor?
Order passed, 5-0.
Next item?
Order 2018-212, crack ceiling bid award.
All right, so this was a program that I talked to you about a couple meetings ago. We put it out to bid to about 11 companies, received 2 bids back. I talked to a couple of people. It's late in the season. They're freighted, so I think that's one of the reasons why we didn't get as many responses as we would like. But we did get 2. There is an error. It wasn't Pike Industries. It was Seal Coating that was the second bidder. But Pike did get a package. And as you can see, it came in. I asked for $15,000. It came in at $21,000. I just had used generic budget numbers that I kind of solicited around town. So, but 1,000 gallons as well was kind of a guess. We haven't done it, so I don't really have a feel for how far that will go and if we will even meet our mark on what we'd like to get done. So I would like to award the 4,000 gallons and put it through our paving program.
The work tends to be done this fall.
Yes, yeah. I've asked him to have it done by October 31st.
And they're good with that?
Yep.
Any other questions of Tom on this topic?
I guess just to clarify, the idea it's actually more than originally requested, but it's actually coming out of the fund at a balance. That's a balance well beyond that because of the lack of paving that we did this year, correct?
Correct.
Yep. And have you picked, I looked through a little bit, but there's certain areas that you actually picked to actually have this done. It's more of a trial than there's anything else, right?
Yeah, I tried to look back at the paving programs in the past, pick up some of those that are starting to show reflective cracking or what have you. Those are the ones we want to hit first. The roads we did last year, we'll give them a look-see. I didn't see any cracks. If we did, we'd pick those up soon, too. So, and that'll just be kind of cyclic. You'll get to a point where we reach a tolerance as to what we want to spend on the program every year, and we'll just kind of rotate those through.
The only reason I say that is after you had a conversation about the chip seal, actually. And
yeah.
I never really paid much attention, but the Houston Street's kind of right next to our shop, and it is scary how bad that road's cracked.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, and it definitely is not living
Any water you can keep out of that base, the better luck we're going to have holding those roads together. So.
Definitely not living up to its idea of chip seal or the reseal itself. But again, it's only as good as what's underneath of it. So
sure.
Yeah. That sinkhole sunk again too, down the other end of Houston.
Yeah.
Is the intent to bring us a addition on next year's budget as the crack sealing by itself?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be part of the program next year. Yep.
Right. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Make that motion.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Order passed, 5-0.
Thank you.
Next.
Order 2018-213, the single stream recycling.
You folks should have received a little summary. I hope I didn't confuse too many of you with the email and
I was
the
trying to
sheet.
figure it out, to be honest with you, and I was a little confused, just trying to figure out
It
which
was kind of a
direction.
twofold thing. As I was recalling our last conversation, we talked basically about the single stream recycling and what the impact was, because it went from us paying 30 to 113 per ton. But as we got digging into it, we really don't have a lot of 5 to 7 ton a month, so it's not the big global impact we thought we were going to have on the budget. So could amount to about $6,000 a year if that stays the same rate. It may go back down. We'll see what happens. But those few items, units that you see that are in red, brown, whatever color you want to call that.
Black and white to us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a color
sorry.
copy.
Yeah.
Those are shaded areas. How's that? I just was trying to reflect some numbers there that show you that, on the revenue side of things, on cardboard we were getting about $150 a ton for it. Now we're only getting 75. So, that's sort of a loss for us. But on the revenue expense scale, our budget's going to be fine, even with these numbers reflecting what they're reflecting. But it was just really more or less for your insight.
So the short answer, what you would say is we have enough cushion to be able to absorb these increases
Yes, we will.
in this current year's budget.
Yep.
May I?
Please.
One of the things I realize people on TV don't actually see what we're seeing, but there was actually a 10-year scale that you gave us as far as comparing the last 10 years.
Yeah, 11 years. Yeah.
11 years, and it's actually quite interesting that some of these items have actually gone down in tonnage and usage. So, I mean, over 10 years, it's not like we increased by 10% of what we throw away. It's actually been really kept consistent. So, and that's one of the things I took away from it. We're not a community that's growing. I mean, we're a community that's growing, but we're not actually throwing more stuff away, which I guess is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But, that's good. That's a lot better than the several $100,000 we were talking about before. So.
That item doesn't need a vote, so moving right on, Plow.
Order 2018-214, the Public Works Truck Bid Award.
So we've put out a 3/4 ton pickup truck to replace pickup truck 206. Again, sent it out to 7 companies. That regular plain Jane pickup truck's quite a rare commodity, but we did find 2 vendors that had a similar truck. Really, the only difference was color. And so Pape Chevrolet had the lowest number, so we were recommending the award to them for $30,816.50. They do have the unit. I talked to them today, so they're holding it for us.
Is there a trade on this one?
No trade. No.
This new purchase.
We're going to move that truck, and actually we kind of wanted to request that we can release that to auction through Auction International as well.
Okay. I
Talked about it earlier last time I think you were here, because Mark was talking about it as well, and they're going to put the van, and we were talking about the bus to go through it.
No, the bus, actually the bus and the cruiser is gone.
Oh, nice.
We checked off on them this week. It closed the beginning of the end of last week. It closed. They sent us a nice little email, and we just had to go online to the website and check off on them, and we received.
It's pretty slick on that.
What's the
Yeah, it is.
Was it
$2,300 on the van and $600 on the cruiser.
Cruiser we can't put on the road. We did pretty good.
And they're gone.
And they're gone.
And they're gone.
No hassle.
Well, we still have them, but yes,
Somebody's
same
coming.
person bought both, so maybe a local. I don't know. I don't think we'll even know that.
Right.
May I?
Please.
I was looking through the notes on the truck, and it looks like there was actually a quote for a brand new plow. Then it was actually adjusted just to change the mounting.
Yeah, we didn't ask for a plow. We just wanted the plow package option, because we usually have it done through Morrison Sylvester. Usually give us a better price. So
the $1,500 that they quoted after, was that just I wasn't understanding whether or
that's to put the
not.
push plates on and the wiring harness.
So push plates, but that's the new push plates and harness, or so you're using your existing V plow off the other truck?
Yeah, they won't fit this new truck. So we use the same plow, yes.
Same plow, just different
Plow,
headgear.
stick,
Okay,
it's
or
just
push
the push
plates.
plates and the wiring harness.
So that $1,500, that represents the idea of getting a truck equipped so you can actually hook up to your plow.
Yeah, the reason being having them put it on falls under the warranty.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to worry, so.
Yep.
Good. I was just trying to figure that out. I see there was one number, then it was
Yeah.
crossed out, then 1,500 for.
Yeah, I don't know how they missed that, but anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, that was.
Any other questions of Tom? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Need a second?
A second?
All in favor?
Order passed 5-0.
Is this your last item for the agenda, except for the last item for goals?
Winter sand.
Oh, let's keep rolling. Can we do winter sand just to?
What do I got?
Order 2018-221, 2018 winter sand bids.
Winter sand bids, we went out for bid for 1,500 cubic yards delivered on September 11th, opened them on the 20th. We had 2 bidders out of 15 companies solicited, but it was, we had 1,500 yards. COP Excavation was low bidder. They supplied us with sand last year as well. So
And what was the bid last year?
I really
Don't remember that price.
I did go back into the
Look
budget
at it to see how it would look for
but
reasonable.
It wasn't spelled out in the breakdown.
Okay.
It was just a line item for winter materials.
Yes, please.
The
testing of aggregate, is that something you do prior and during the process, or is that something?
They give us a sample and a sieve analysis from a testing firm before we get the material. Yep. And they listed their pit on there, and like I said, we've been getting it from there for a number of years. So
Yeah,
we're
I was
happy
just
with
curious. I wasn't sure if that pit they were actually bringing stuff into, if that's actually still coming out of that pit. So
as far as I know, it's the same pit. That's what my operations manager said anyway.
Any other questions, Tom, on this topic? I'll entertain a motion. You got a question?
No, I was just saying, you still feel it's actually more just due to lack of time and everything, the idea of them trucking that. I'd be curious to see what the cost difference was that I was trying to look at.
I figured about $3.71 per yard to have it delivered versus us doing it. And again, if you think about costs, they're running a 16-yard or an 18-yard truck versus a 6 to 8 yard truck. You're getting more than double the. And we are up against it time-wise,
Absolutely.
Too, so.
And that was my second question. Is it? I didn't see it, and I probably just wasn't looking at enough. Is there a time frame that they were going to deliver it within a certain range or a delivery date? Or
I think because of room, sometimes we don't take it all at once, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to make enough room to take 1,500 yards in there or not. So.
I'm not sure if that needs to be just written in a sense of making sure that we're able to get it when we need it. That's all. But I'm sure COP it's not going to be a problem. But it's just one of those things where you. Things change pretty quick this time of year.
Yes, they do.
I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Order passed 5-0.
Because he's at the podium. Do you want to do your goal? Do you want to do your goals? Can we do that? And Tom will be dismissed for a change. Somebody had sensitivity towards you the last meeting, if I remember correctly.
That's fine.
Department head goals and updates.
Yes.
And Public Works Director.
All right. So these were some goals and objectives put forth by the previous Public Works Director. So I'll just kind of go down through the list as to what has been done and still needs to be done. Let's see. So on the equipment side of things, looks like they wanted to replace Wheeler 211, which is our oldest truck in the fleet. That's 20 years old now and held together by duct tape and bubble gum. So, but it didn't make the cut this year, so that is definitely one that's going to stay on the list. Replacement of 206 is what we just approved for the pickup truck, so that one will go by the wayside. Replace the gas and diesel fuel. As you know, we did get another 10-year extension on our system, and we've did some repairs to the existing pumps, dispenser pumps, so we should be good for a while on that. You all received the information on that as well, as far as what's it going to cost for you to inspect. And I am waiting for some alternative prices to a buried tank as well. Replace the salt shed. Really haven't done anything with that right now. It's a big need, but because we store that sand outside, we put the salt inside, but the sand gets outside, and we literally have to screen it out to use it every storm, which, as you know, is not very effective. Greater emphasis on potential incentive programs. I have to be honest, I think the guys do a terrific job with the equipment. I get comments all the time how good they work at the age they are. So, I'm not sure what they were after with that, but we'll definitely look into it some more. But I think the guys do a commendable job on keeping that equipment up and running for the age of those pieces. Adjust the work schedule. We sorted that out with a contract, so we're good and moving forward with that. Transfer station. I have if we truly feel we're losing money there on the OBW side of things, I mean, a scale system obviously would put an end to that because you pay for every pound that goes in there. There is I'm sure there's some randomness to how things get measured and valued, so there's something we need to work on, but a scale system would definitely put an end to that. And definitely has its merits, but it is costly. I haven't looked into a budget for that, but I will put one together for discussion at the next budget cycle. We haven't done any fee schedule study yet. We have reviewed the traffic count data and determined peak usage. And those will have to factor in hours of use, of opening, but we're reviewing the ordinances right now, so we'll come up with some recommendations with that. And buildings and grounds, we have the blocks for a loading dock to update where we load up all the brush into the trailer there, so we'll get that installed hopefully next week. And Marcel's done a pretty good job with the landscaping around there, trying to keep it as clean as possible. So, and we've gone out for a new sign package to just update all the signs. We're looking at putting a booth at the entrance to the gate to try and segregate traffic. Those that are going for the household waste will get to go right through. OBW will be picked up there and assessed and measured before. Because once they get in that gate, it's like herding cats. So hopefully this will help the process and capture some of that revenue that we need. So it's really all ahead on this list.
Cassie, I know you had a question. You texted me a couple of weeks ago, something related, we weren't in compliance with what our ordinance said for, do you remember what it was?
Oh, gosh, you asked me. I know the stickers.
Yeah, the stickers.
We're dealing with that when we update the ordinance. That's exactly right. The ordinance says one thing and the stickers say something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're addressing all of those discrepancies. There's more than one.
Like the hours.
Yeah,
and
clarifying
hours too,
definitions,
yep.
hours, yep.
Mhm.
Days that they're
Yep.
open. Because yes, the ordinance reflects one thing, but we have another thing. But
There are so many changes that we're making in that ordinance because it's so outdated that I think we ought to have a workshop on it before we bring the changes to the council.
Okay. I just know there was something that you actively saw.
And I think if we could do maybe the workshop in January
Okay. Prior to budget?
prior to budget, yeah.
Okay. I would be receptive to that.
Okay.
Please.
There's quite a few people listening, and I know last year going into the plowing season, we were a little behind the gun as far as equipment, and there was some hiccups at the beginning of the year there a little bit, just not due to anything besides the idea we had a season that started pretty early. Going into this year with equipment and personnel, we're in pretty good shape for this year's winter season, as far
the
as you can
mechanics
see.
been on the two troubled children we have as far as the vehicles go, and trying, like I said, just duct taping them together. We have one that really is just fighting us. Has one of the first of those regen systems on it that does not work, and when it doesn't work, it goes into limp mode, and that's the last thing you need and it only goes into limp mode when it's overheated, and we ran it today trying to get it to kick on so we could bring it down to get it serviced because they can't test it unless it's in that mode.
Yep.
So it's been I guess just a long battle for them on that piece of equipment, and that's not even the oldest truck we have. So.
We actually have in the last few years, and before I come on council, actually, there has been some replacement of trucks.
Yes.
Last year was actually one of the bigger years.
I think most recently bought 2 trucks in 1 year.
Yeah.
And we had the oldest one that was slated for this year.
Yeah. Because as time goes on, when you set your own goals, that you can actually kind of bring that forward, so we have a little bit better idea.
I know when we hired you, Tom, one of the things that we talked about was affording you an opportunity to give us your take on the LCIP and where things were plugged in. So looking at what you see on the fleet and addressing changes from there. So if you want to expound upon that at a future date, just get with Diane to be able to give us what you actually have.
Yeah, I had a nice little report for tonight, but
Okay.
I will save that for a better time. But yeah, I do. I actually have spent a lot of time with it, so I think,
Basically, like the ordinance change for anything at the transfer station, anything that gets you ahead of the next budget cycle,
right.
to at least know what you're thinking to be able to vet that process,
Yeah.
it would be beneficial.
Sure. I'll work on it.
Okay.
Before you dismiss them, can we just talk about a couple of things? The traffic change downtown, just a little update on that, and then our meeting with MDOT today.
Please.
Sure. So the traffic signals, they put them online 2 Mondays ago, and they weren't quite right. And we knew we were going to have some massaging to do with it anyway, but they came back a couple days later and readjusted those, set the timing a little bit longer on, people heading eastbound in the morning. And that seems to have sorted out the bulk of those issues. They had a green arrow on the right-hand turn, so when people were queuing up there and it would stop, but they could see that green arrow, they get frustrated, and understandably so. But the biggest complaint there is, yes, people that were normally could just fly through to the right and head to Durham don't have that. But even before, if you had somebody that stopped in the straight-through lane, by the time they back traffic up to where Railroad Cafe is, one lane, you're stuck there anyway. So, I mean, that had to have happened in the past as well. So, but we, with the adjustments, and they should have, unless they got rained out today, Andy was coming down to put up the little white marker signs that tell you which lane goes where, slide some lights over, check the timing again, and we'll see how that plays out. We met with MDOT on this, on the overall project, the intersection and the reconstruction project going up Main Street and from Houston out. And because of the change on the signal, they're just not even going to do that intersection anymore. They also said that I guess they had trouble getting railroad right away. Railroad isn't cooperating right at this point. So even if they did design the intersection, they weren't going to be able to do the project anyway. So
Is that a polite way of saying they're going to give us what we were looking for?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so which is good. So, and we're able to shift that money that we were going to put into that intersection. We have some homework to do on that, but then that can go towards the rest of the project, which will definitely help, because it was almost over $1 million just for that intersection. So now, I mean, we've spent $20,000 there, and they'll spend a little when they do the project, but
yeah. The only question I have is they gave us a pretty good deal, just trying to use some quote unquote, I think, some old stuff he had laying around to make this work.
Yeah.
So does that mean that we have that old stuff laying around when they redo this project, and they're not going to replace those lights as originally intended?
They will still keep this project as I'm not sure how they will classify it in their system, but they're obviously going to keep it there, because this was meant to be a 20-year fix, not a 10-year. What we did with the light was really more of a 10-year fix, they felt. So that'll still stay in play if they ever get the railroad, whether the railroad goes away or they're able to get some of that land, then because that's the only way they could ever get 3 lanes eastbound.
So if we start having problems with some of that lighting on the intersection, we're on the hook to fix it still.
Well, and I think, and again, we did have that conversation, because I brought it up at the meeting that, we did use used parts, although most of it is new.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've looked at it. Most of it, the biggest used piece was the cabinet that's over on and it looks fine. I mean, I didn't think it was bad. So, I mean, that was really the biggest used piece, was that cabinet. Cameras were all new, because those were never there before. There are a couple different kinds, and I think the state will still do some stuff in that intersection as part of the other win now. So, because they're going to pave that, they'd have to pave that, because they bring in the sewer right out to the intersection, and depending on where we are with the lights, I'm sure they will do some upgrading. So,
yeah, also, please. The only comment I had that from people visiting the shop down there is they kind of wish that a lot of DOT projects, when you actually have a change of pattern, usually there's a sign preempting that ahead of time. Beware traffic pattern change ahead.
We did have that up.
Yeah, but a lot of people said just it would be sometimes you use the big signs where, Did you actually have one of the big signs up top?
Lane on both sides has those huge message centers that
Does it?
say new traffic pattern
Yeah,
ahead.
and again,
And we
I
had the
was
regular
just going by
signs
what
up that
people
said
said down low. Were those down over the top of the hill or something, or?
Right at the beginning of each end of the project. One's up by the school, or just beyond the school, so it's at the beginning of the project. So
Okay.
yeah, so when you get to it, coming westbound is pretty close. Coming eastbound,
It was the other way, yeah. Yep. And again, that was the only thing that people were questioning, but I kind of looked at it, but they were a little further away than what I thought they were, so.
Yeah. Yep.
So we did meet with ATRC and the technical committee and the policy committee, and everybody voted to make that change as part of the project. So they're picking up 90% of the cost, and we only have to pick up 10% of the change in the intersection that just happened. So we're not on the hook for the 21,000, just 10%. So, which is good.
Nice, yeah.
But even bigger than that, I mean, our percentage of the
Oh, yeah,
project
right, exactly.
is a big picture, right? So it's a $1-point-something million project, and
Right.
Yeah.
we actually had a percentage
10% of that, we
Yeah.
just saved $100 grand.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Good, thank you.
Good work all around.
Oh, yeah. Thank
Seems to be getting smoother. As the week went on, people were actually think
Yeah,
we're actually
yeah,
adapting a little bit. And you know, one thing that I like, and I mean, just as a side note, we've looked at this kind of project over the years, and we were trying to figure out when people come over the hill by Crafts, how do you get them not to see just a straight shot that the light's green and we need to power down and go down through? And that little jog that actually happens just after the park,
Right.
where you come down and you actually have to revert right a little bit. I think that actually is a good indicator for people that we're coming into an area that actually needs to slow down.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I'd be interested, I know we can't do it during the winter months, but even during the summer, if we can actually get some of those orange poles and actually put them in that area so people actually, when they come over the hill, now actually have to brake a little bit and just anything that happens. Before, it used to be just across the hill by Crafts, and all you seen was, you know, you wanted to make it through that light. And, I mean, it wasn't unheard to see trucks roll through there, 40, 45, big trucks.
What's really nice now, too, is before all the loops were broken, so it was completely 100% timed intersection.
Yeah.
So once the cycle starts, they all got to run. So if there's no cars on Main Street or Canal Street, it still does that cycle. So you lose a minute to a minute and a half. When there's no cars there now, it's strictly vehicle actuated.
I've sat there before going through 3 light cycles, and light never turned green on our side. So, I mean, there was a lot of questions there before, so it's better.
So that in itself, obviously, is huge. One other just comment about the paving program on 196, because I've got this a lot, and I know the manager's got and I think Chairman got one.
Yeah, oh, I did.
They only ground the shoulders up into about the Big Apple. From the Big Apple up, they only ground the travel lanes. So all they did was seal the shoulders with sealer, like driveway sealer.
Yep.
So it all looks the same, because they've done this drill before, and that's the complaints they get. So they paint it so that the complaints die down. But people see the cracks in the shoulder and the ruddiness and think it's a really crappy job, but that was the intent. It's just a money-saving option. So.
Yeah, they did the same thing on Route 9 when they redid that a couple years ago.
So if you get that call, you know, that's why. So.
May I one
Please,
more time?
no, keep going.
There was also a comment that actually was a positive comment that the crosswalks, the way they're marked off now, actually are definitely more evident than sometimes in the past when we just used to do the two lines. I mean, the idea of it just being a little bit more marked out, I guess, colored-wise, actually, I think helps a lot. And new pavement, it helps too.
Oh, sure, yeah, it stands out when it's white
absolutely.
on
Looks
black
good.
versus white on gray. So yeah.
Yep. Nice addition to our town coming through for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Next item, Twyla.
Order 2018-215, the marijuana discussion.
Much as Don would like to have me, I'm going to abstain and actually step down for a minute.
Okay.
Anybody have any problem with that?
The information you guys have in front of you from both the planning board and legal lists the reasons the moratorium were put in play and the timeline that was taken care of. The information from the planning board has a updated land use chart. Don or Ms. Parody, why don't one of you guys come forward, at least hit the highlights of what you see on that now versus the first revision.
Absolutely. And thank you, Councilor Brunel. Absolutely, for being the counselor you were elected to be. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm reaching for the, okay. As asked by the council, the planning board has made our best decisions. And again, this was not unanimous, and I would like the council to know that of the 5 voting members, it was a 4-1. However, we tried using our best reason, and we understand it's a complicated issue and controversial. However, the few items that probably are of note, that we have changed the land use chart to have registered caregiver retail stores, because that is becoming a current and option. And we have it under all all zones rather than village under conditional, commercial under conditional, and under diversified development as conditional. Under registered dispensaries, no in all areas other than, again, village, commercial, industrial, and diversified development, conditional under all those conditions, all those zones, as well as under marijuana testing facilities, conditional under village, commercial, industrial, and diversified development, and under manufacturing facilities, no under all zones other than commercial, industrial, and diversified development. Again, because the retail for recreational or adult use, those rules are not out by the state, our suggestion is that it be no in all those areas.
And that basically goes with what we heard at the workshop, to be able to say that there'd be a year out.
Absolutely.
Formulating.
Absolutely, and I thank Vice Chair Mr. Fellows for his scribing of this, because it is a complicated issue, and again, we are trying to think of the best for the town, and it is our suggestion that where it was only 4 weeks ago that you did ask for us to do moratorium so that we have the 6 months, and again, within a month, we have given back to you our suggestions. We do strongly propose that the changes be enacted and the moratorium before any moratorium is lifted. I'm sorry.
No, you did fine, Karen. Key points that I would actually make on this: what you're seeing for the caregivers and dispensaries primarily are what would be in place now, trying to stay with what was already decided for where those were permitted under the current version of the land use chart.
Yes.
Can you point to the verbiage that Dawn put ahead? There was a note that actually said anything associated with these were to be...
It's on top, right?
Yes. Right on the front page of the land use chart, second paragraph. Businesses dealing with adult use, recreational, or medical use marijuana are included in the commercial business uses category and are specifically titled medical marijuana businesses and adult use recreational marijuana businesses. No marijuana business shall be considered under any other section or subsection of this table of uses. Basically, clarifying the fact is the ambiguousness of where some of them felt that they, like farm stands was a large discussion.
Yes.
Does that actually constitute manufacturing in some of the dialogue that you had? So that was intended to actually address that. Please, Don.
Codes had several inquiries and possible challenges to the codes ordinance or the zoning ordinance, and the intent of this was to absolutely clarify it, that it applies only to businesses, and the businesses are in those areas.
Right.
May I?
Please.
I sat through a good part of that planning board meeting, but I actually had to leave because after about 2 or 3 hours, you actually tend to have to go places. And again, I'll just kind of give my idea of what happened that night and what's been happening. And before I came back on council, I sat through many planning board meetings where they were actually working on this. And the planning board actually has spent quite a bit of time and put together a somewhat a proposal to bring to council, 2 years ago, on the medical. And it actually, at that point in time, the council chose not to move it forward. So it was actually kind of put back out and in limbo for a year or so. And then that was on the medical, which actually the recreational wasn't even a factor at that point in time. It was just medical. Then after that, it actually passed by law that we knew the recreational was coming into effect, so the planning board went back at it by request and actually changed all their verbiage into not classified, but just marijuana. Not actually, it didn't. So if you go look at our land use chart right now, it actually doesn't tell the difference between recreational and medical. It's just basically one category, which from what I was told from listening to the discussion, is the way it's categorized right now, whether we opted in or not, it's very possible that after this 90 days goes by, the closing, that it would be fair game for recreational and medical equally, because of the way it's written in our land use right now, potentially, right?
That is the legal opinion from Dan.
Yeah, I know. That might be a debatable issue, because if you have the statute in front of you, it definitely says you have to, the body has to opt in. So
what's not debatable
whatever, but anyway.
But what's not debatable is the idea is our land use chart right now does not tell the difference between the two.
Right.
And I was not able to be at the workshop where we had other people come in, but I did watch a video, and one of the recommendations was to actually just get the medical going. Don't worry about the recreational, because that's going to work itself out in a year or so. The last meeting, just move forward to the last meeting where there's a lot to come up and there's a lot of issues. I know the planning board is trying to move forward the idea of correcting that and actually separating the two, so we have the medical and the recreational, and not even worrying about the recreational for now, saying no's to all the categories. So if there is any legal brought up, it's still, even though it may be, if someone thought we opted in, it's still not, because it's not able to put in any area. And I know Alan did work with the chair to actually find the quickest possible route to actually correct this and actually get this so it would actually be, so there wouldn't be any downtime between the idea of you actually talking. Matter of fact, they actually even use your meeting on the 27th as formally proposed changes, just so we can move the process forward even quicker. So I know there was a lot of work that night to actually be done to actually make these changes in the land use chart without actually having any downtime, and the quickest possible time frame with the readings, the proposals, the second readings, the public hearings, and the idea of it gets lifted will actually be done before the opt-in, or just about the same time as the opt-in comes into play. So it actually is the quickest process that the town can do. And I guess as a planning board, you actually were working on this because it was actually kind of put to you as a council that there was going to be a decision made at some point in time to actually move forward on it. And we just wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with what you needed to do. And at this point, do you think if once these changes go through, the planning board's pretty much going to be all set to move forward to make this happen? Because I'm sure you're going to be getting some applications, as soon as this goes through. So.
As far as the planning board is concerned, I think it's the best we can do.
Yep.
Considering, but I would like the code enforcement officer to give his opinion.
The idea that the categories match the state regulations, so it makes it easy to land.
And that is our job as well, to make sure.
I just have two comments. One, the categories that are laid out here are laid out specifically in both ordinances. The adult use legislation is currently been enacted upon, but as you know, it has to go through rulemaking, and rulemaking makes it actually effective. And rulemaking probably isn't going to happen until June or even after that. So if we put in no's for now, that's clear to everybody. And if you change your mind after this and want to do something or a part of it, you can. You have the rights to lift or move or regulate it however you want. And the other part is, even though in medical marijuana, registered caregivers is the new title, and not primary caregivers, but retail store is never defined, at least not that I could find. But it is defined as what you can't regulate, or it's listed the ideas that you can opt out of. So that's why we put the retail marijuana next to the registered caregivers in that category as businesses.
So it will fulfill. I mean, may I?
So to the point, if I remember correctly from that workshop, was that you're addressing the storefront. We don't want to get into the business of regulating a caregiver that's actually already registered right now that's doing something in their home or elsewhere. That was the intent, correct?
Right. And the statute says you can't attack those things anyway.
So going through this, I mean, what I believe, what I seen the other night before I left was the idea that what you have up front of us actually clears the idea of the separation between the two, and really doesn't change anything to do on the medical storefront or anything. It's basically as proposed. It didn't change where they were or what they can be done. It was all what was already written. So it basically just makes it so you can move forward without worrying about any recreational or adult use or whatever the terminology is today. But again, the time frames is pretty. It seems long, but it's Alan had put it down to the tightest time frame we can get to do it. Then, as of that last, I guess, potential opt-in date or whatever, if that's what this called in, then at that point in time we would, as the town, be ready to move forward with any applications come forward.
Absolutely.
If the moratorium, as I understand it, or we understand it, is if the moratorium were lifted prior to this being enacted, then you're subject to whatever's there now. And that's not exactly what was intended, I don't think.
If the moratorium would be lifted today, the idea of the recreational adult use storefronts would actually be as accessible as the medical.
Entertain an application for
as the medical.
Although it would have to go through conditional use or
same process as the medical, though. Yeah, there wouldn't be any differences between the two.
Yeah, I had a question on the proposed timetable for the situation here. That we have our first reading on the 16th of October, and then it's not until November 13th that we're having the second reading. I wonder if we could speed up the process a bit by having the second reading earlier than that, rather than have a month in between there.
We only have one meeting.
I know. I'm suggesting that we have a special meeting just for that.
Oh,
so
okay.
that we're not,
I get you.
I know people want to start businesses on, if it's 2 weeks makes a difference to people, I'd rather let them start in mid-November instead of.
That's why.
Right. And I'm just saying, could we schedule a public hearing, sometime in that time frame? I don't know if how long does it have to be between the two first and second readings?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So if we could have one maybe, day after Election Day or something. I don't know what the council's feeling. I just think, to be fair to people who are sitting and waiting for this, if we could speed it up by 2 weeks, because it's worth a couple of hours for I think, to help them get their businesses in November instead of December.
Does that change the
21 days is from that second meeting.
From the second reading. So I
So
think
it would take 2 weeks off the time frame. Absolutely.
Does that actually change in the opt-in time at all, or is that just?
Yes, it does.
Well, that just
puts you ahead of the 13th.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're ahead of the opt-in potential date of the state, which, again,
it doesn't matter if you're ahead of the 90-day enactment. It doesn't matter if we've got it in place.
Yep.
That's the idea.
Right.
No, I'm game for whatever comes up. I can't speak for the other councilors, but I mean, if there's a time frame that actually being closer, I think Alan was using the dates that are already
Existing
on the calendar.
dates, knowing what we were looking at in November. Right. But, yeah, I would not be opposed to any of it. The point that I was making is I put the planning board in a 2-hour hostage situation to be able to do what we spoke about in the workshop. The last comment that I remember on this was, in a short period of time, you, Don, felt that we could actually turn this around to be able to address the specific issues that were in that land use chart to be able to bring it to council, and you guys did so.
I think it was probably me that said that, but
Yeah.
Again, I appreciate the council dealing with both the vice chair and myself, because it has been a 3-year process where I was chair, our vice chair was chair, then I was vice chair, and again, I'm chair again.
We just tagged in next year?
Yes, absolutely. So we appreciate you dealing with both of us.
Previously, I remember Cassie having considerable discussion about the matter, because when we were trying to bring it forward before, the laws were not very clear. And, and they've gotten better.
Have they? No, they depends how you read them. Yeah.
Even though there's still some imperfection in the thing.
It's still as clear as mud.
The one point that I would actually make is, I was very clear in you guys' discussion the other night. We as a council can do what whatever we want with the land use chart, but you have a recommendation that you've presented to us. And that was the task that was actually put before you, is the recommendation to see where we're at. That said, we could lift the moratorium anytime we choose, but you've listed in this what the impact of doing so would be to the to you. Ultimately, they would come back with applications.
Diane, you had a
So,
change in.
yeah, so if you wanted to schedule a special meeting for the second reading, you could always do it on October 30th on a Tuesday night. So that'd be exactly 2 weeks after the 16th, which is normally what would happen.
Okay.
I think I heard a motion.
I'll second that.
Just one other thing, too. If you're going to do that and have the second reading, I would do the opt-in at the same time, have it all done. I know, obviously, the opt-in's not going to take effect until 21 days after the,
You have to opt in based on that date, that's all.
Right.
yeah, that's fine. But I mean, there's no reason to have a special meeting to opt in. We can do it all at once, and I'll get the language for
disagree on a lot
that.
of stuff that
Now we could open up for Thanksgiving.
November
Do we-
20th.
Do we actually have enough people here to know that we'll have a quorum that night? All four of us are able to make it that night if no one else does? I don't want
The
to
30th is
pick a
which
date
day is
for
that?
other
Tuesday.
people.
Tuesday.
Tuesday
Okay. Yeah, I always keep Tuesdays clear.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, me too.
Are you,
We have
is
4.
everybody else 4?
Yeah.
Probably
Good.
take you all 5 minutes to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there any?
I mean, you can do it at 6 o'clock, too. I mean, if you wanted to do a special, if you're only going to be here for that
Doesn't make a
one.
difference for me. I mean, it's 6, 7, whatever. I mean, 7's easier for me typically, but
Lock up the date,
Oh, yeah.
if you could.
30th, a vote? Somebody made a motion, a second?
So,
I'll make the motion.
I have a second over here.
do we actually? Okay, I'll make a motion.
What
All
time?
right,
are you
I
gonna
had
call?
the motion right here.
I'll
It's only
second it.
7 unless other people want to change.
And you want to do 7
7?
p.m.?
7 less.
7 p.m.
So
7 p.m. on the 30th.
All in favor?
The question is, where's the move the rest of the calendar at that point in time? I mean, does that move everything?
Right. It should all.
Should
move
all
ahead.
go with it.
The 21 days is
Right,
the
so
only
it's
thing that
21
would be
days.
left, right?
Right. But that way, then we could lift the moratorium a couple weeks earlier.
Right.
So I mean, is this saying that it was December 18th, but now this would actually end up being the end of November versus the idea of the beginning of December?
Correct. Correct.
So 21 days, November 20th, right?
Any questions on content of what you're seeing in the land use chart? We haven't gotten into the content of the recommendation.
I'd recommend after 3 years they have it pretty much nailed down, I think. So, I mean, there's a lot of,
So your recommendation would be to accept as presented?
absolutely, I'll make that motion.
I know anything that was contrary to what I was seeing, I know I was pushing them that night to be able to have it, but it was something coming from you. Yes, sir. Right.
Yes.
I understand. I'm saying anything you're seeing on this right now, because what are we seeing in content that's, I know, I'm trying to respect the process, but give you something for feedback at that night of that hearing is what I'm trying to do.
Like a straw poll?
Right. Okay. That said, the public hearing will be scheduled for, what's the date, Mark?
October 11th for the first one. The first
October
reading.
11th, 7 o'clock here.
Yep. And then the
first reading will be
first
October
reading.
16th
October
for
16th.
council.
Sorry. Yep. Right. The
Then-
planning board is October 11th. Yep. October 16th will be our first reading.
Once again, you guys will have notes coming out of the planning board that night for something to be in the packet, knowing that it hits a Tuesday. So we'll have all that. Okay, good. Yep. Yep. I know there was a little bit of a snafu there, but we took care of it to be able to get everything here because the agenda went out on Thursday rather than the Friday morning, and that kind of put the boots to me. Yes, sir. Sure.
Sure. As a citizen,
You want to come to the public and tell us who you are?
Yep.
Steve.
Your name?
My name is Chris Brunel. I live at 328 Lisbon Street. Back on September 3rd, when the moratorium was voted on, we talked about having a workshop so that planning board members, town council members, and anybody else of the public that wanted to come and be informed about medicinal storefronts could come forward. Consultant Kim Printy actually showed up, I think answered everybody's questions on the planning board.
No, we did not know she was there as a consultant for the town.
She did offer to answer anybody's questions that needed to be answered. Anybody had any questions could ask her any questions. The reason for the moratorium, well, I was told by some of the council members, was so that they could get some more information. That's why the workshop happened, so we could all get some more information. As far as I'm concerned, if I hadn't said that I was going to open a store and take out an application for conditional use in the zone that was already zoned for medicinal storefronts, I'm not sure that we'd be standing here right now talking about this. As far as I know about recreational, the opt-in is beyond that point any time. There's no opt-in for the medicinal marijuana. It's already on the books. Needless to say, I haven't called Kim Printy to get the real outline about it yet, but I will. I believe that the moratorium should be raised, should be repealed, and there should be a vote about it. Because, again, people have a hair because it's Chris Brunell and I'm a town council member. When we had a workshop, there were several people behind me who are also caregivers in this town who have a stake in this. And again, this town is supposed to be a good place to do business. But yet, even though people are going and jumping through all the hoops to make sure that the town is happy with what's going on, business people in this town still keep getting pushed down. Like Lisbon is a great place to do business as long as you don't want to have a medicinal storefront retail in our neighborhood. It's been going on for years. And every time somebody like myself steps up, people from our town step down on us. So again, more information was brought to the council. Everybody here knows that if my building or anybody else that was behind me's building was ready before this moratorium was put in place and would have gotten an application in, we'd already have a storefront out there. But apparently none of us were ready. Probably by the end of the month I will be. And you guys are going to push me back down, and them other people, from opening storefronts, real legitimate businesses, bring people into this neighborhood, pay taxes, take old properties and clean them up, put hard-earned money into them so that we can have a legitimate business in the town of Lisbon where it's a good place to do business. But yet here we are still. And again, this guy's been doing it a lot longer than I have, but apparently my drum is a little louder than most of theirs. So again, if you don't have enough information, you should ask somebody so you do. Not back there. People who really are in the know. Because again, I believe that this should be repealed tonight. There's 4 of you. That's all it takes. Again, you are holding business up in this neighborhood. They already had land use chart in place. Somebody saw the light going to turn on and went, whoa, we'll slow that down again. So, again, taxpayer in the town of Lisbon, Chris Brunell.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Seeing none? Moving right along.
Okay, next item. Ordinance
Tag you in.
Ordinance 2018-216, the General Assistance Amendments to Chapter 14, Appendix A, Overall Maximums, Appendix B, Food Maximums, Appendix C for housing, and D for utilities. This is the first reading. A roll call vote is required.
It's the annual we
Yes.
go through in this process. Any questions on content? We've all seen the topic. That said, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Up to you, Twyla. Roll call.
Councillor Colby?
Yes.
Councillor Brunel? Brunel?
Yes. I didn't hear you on mic. Did you say anything, Twyla?
Councillor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Ward?
Yes.
And Counselor La Rochelle?
Yes.
Okay, so 5 yeas, 0 nays, order passed.
Next item.
Order 2018-217, the street name approval. The 911 addressing officer requests that you adopt Therese Lane.
Is the applicant here, or is there any more information than we have? Step forward.
Lou Sullivan from 4 Gould Road, building a house on Route 9, excuse me, and the property I have has a 300-foot driveway before it opens up into 20 acres. And doing the math, I realized there's no place to have an actual number and still fit all the 50-foot regulations, and also there's a potential of developing more properties back there, so that would also not work to have a street name. So this is our second name we've submitted to try and have approved. So Therese Lane, named after a child that we have had who passed. So.
And it's in compliance with the 911 and everything else. I see that being nodded in the back. So any other questions?
Entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I should say.
Motion. I need a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Next item.
Order 2018-218, the fire department authorization to apply for the Assistance to Firefighters grant.
Nate LeClaire, Fire Chief. This grant is the FEMA grant that's been around since 2001. It was designed to assist fire departments with first responders for getting equipment, personnel, vehicles, and things like that. Last week, Tracy and I went down to a workshop in Scarborough, and we found out that day that the grant opened that day. They actually moved it up this year, and we found out the day of the workshop. So we're kind of behind the gun on this one. We have until the 26th to apply for the grant. And the goal was to try to apply for the grant to try to get some money to help purchase the new engine that we're looking for. It's a long shot. I'll be upfront and honest on that one. They do over 4,000 applications for vehicles alone for this grant, with only 25% of the available funds allotted for vehicles. So it's a slot shoot, but after talking to Diane and to Tracy, we think that who's trying to do something to try to offset the cost.
Questions?
So this is just asking permission to actually write the grant or to put the grant in?
Yeah.
To
be honest with you, I have to do some research on the commercial side, but with the dealers to get accurate pricing, because the truck that we felt that we were going to be in the need of is going to exceed what FEMA allots for an engine. So we have to find out if it's even possible for us to get within the price range what FEMA allows for pricing.
I guess that was my question. Is this kind of a match grant, or is this actually a partial grant?
It is a match grant, but the neat thing about this grant is since we're a community of less than 20,000 people, it's only a 5% match, which is ridiculously low for most grants.
What is the number that they actually offer for this category of
500,000.
500,000?
Yeah. We can shoot for more and see what happens. One of the things that the gentleman from FEMA told us, he goes with a lot of the other grants people put in for, whether it's equipment, personal protection equipment, health and well-being, those categories. If people don't get the grant, they can usually tell you why. You didn't answer this question right, you answer that question right. When it comes to vehicles, it's literally see what happens. There are times I see people who say, oh, there's no way they're going to get that grant, and they get it. So we're risking the time, basically, that we put into it, and that's all we're really risking on this one.
There's no opportunity with the grant to actually have an opportunity to pay more than the 5% to actually get a larger number. I mean, if
we actually have to apply for the full purchase, the full amount of the program, the project.
So regardless, you have to put in for the full amount.
This we said, right? Yeah.
So you could actually order a rolling chassis pretty much with some equipment on and pay the difference later. No. This grant doesn't mess you up with the idea of, as far as going in November, right? As far as
no, because I actually was talking to town manager about that one. Even if we got this grant, we'd still have to go to referendum anyway because of the cost of the project.
Can't purchase anything without the vote.
Right, regardless of where the funding's coming from.
So regardless where the funds are coming from, we still got to get approval.
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious.
Well, I'll never know unless I try.
That's right. You have got to go because you never know. We've done pretty well. So I would say that if the last few years have been anything to say, maybe we have a good chance.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I need a second. All in favor?
5-0, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Next.
Order 2018-219 to adopt the resolution for the CDBG Downtown Revitalization Program for the $300,000.
Anything we haven't already heard?
No, you have everything. And Twyla has the resolution that I need your signatures on as well that I can send up to the state.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we actually move forward.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
5-0, yes. Passed.
Next item.
Order 2018-220, the CDBG facade grant change order, glass bid.
14 Main Street was the last facade project that I brought before you, and council had approved $17,900 for Portland Glass to do the work for replacing windows and doors. That wasn't for the whole project. So in lieu of time of getting this building kind of under repair, it doesn't look like the mason work is going to be done. That will have to come in probably next spring under the owners. To do the additional work for Portland Glass to complete the whole window and door project would be an additional $1,874.96. So I'm asking council to do the change order in that dollar amount so they can continue on and make the project complete as far as doors and windows. And at the next council meeting, I probably will be bringing the carpentry work on this project too, so we can get the carpentry work done and the windows and doors. So all that will be left for 14 Main Street will be the brick.
Coming under a time gun now.
Yes,
Coming close.
and again, the guarantee as far as the work being done by the allotted time by November 30th. As you know, the roof project is just about completed on the old schoolhouse. MT pools, have you taken a look in that?
Awesome.
Absolutely phenomenal. That work has been completed under the grant, so that money will be released as well. So,
Yep. I make a motion that we actually approve.
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Flip a coin. All in favor?
5-0, carried.
I want to make a comment. It is nice driving up 196, seeing a lot of this stuff being fixed, and empty pools looks really nice. And
they were very excited with the work that Derek had did, that they hired him to do an extension on that and build the other room. So
looks very nice. Yep, what a nice change.
Next item, Tom.
Under other business, council committee reports.
School. Mr. Albert is MIA. Next would be planning. Planning, there was Kieran Transport for site plan and their application review, and comprehensive plan update, and then they moved everything to the moratorium discussion during the workshop, as we already heard. LDC, sir.
We had a meeting the other night and basically just went over the Dean Willie actually posted some of the drawings and renditions that the council had seen before about the Graziano Square. We went over some of the feedback, which is, I would say 99.9% positive, and if you didn't have 1% there that was, bad, that would be concerning. But it was all good, and basically just getting excited to actually see this fall potentially, I guess, maybe seeing some foundations coming up if all works out, and then hopefully get everything in place so this spring coming up we can actually start making the lot look better with some added features. So good things coming, just a matter of time now. So that's it.
Conservation doesn't meet until October. Recreation.
Nothing to report.
County meets tomorrow night. We're meeting number 2, myself and Mark. To date, we've cut in excess of 11,000. We've identified other things that have been tabled for future discussion, and there are 2 more workshops, so you'll have more coming soon. Library?
I'll let Diane speak to that in a few minutes here.
Okay. Town managers then.
We already covered the MDOT meetings,
Mm-hmm.
So
so I'm all set.
you, Diane. The Diane.
So
I'm
no,
thinking
you're in-
Diane.
Diane, that
Yes,
sorry.
yes. All right. Department head goal updates. Economic development.
Tracy Stuber, Economic and Community Development Director. One of the goals that was on the list was developing a brochure on how to do business in Lisbon, and working with the code enforcement officer as well as the town clerk. You do have something that I've put together. We've been going back and forth and tweaking it and making changes. From doing this, it will actually, the next step will be to design a kind of like a fold pamphlet, and the pamphlet will have just a little snippet as far as some photos of the area and just more of the highlights type of things that we can kind of have and send out. The other thing that we'll do is everything within this booklet will go on the website. So as people can go to the website, it will also have the design standards, it will have the Route 196 master plan. So under the tab for doing business, everything will be in one location so people won't have to search through. So all this information will be there. And again, if they have any questions, the contacts and all that. If council has any questions or if we've missed anything, by all means, please let me know so that we can kind of add to that. The guide is very generic as far as we didn't list names. It was really based on just the extensions and the departments. Then that way there, it won't outdate itself. So it can kind of pretty much get some shelf life off of this report. Continuing with business and the visitation.
Is this a draft that you're looking for feedback from us on?
Yes. We've gone through it as far as for departments, but I'd also like council to weigh in on that too if they.
Okay.
So.
It just threw me off where it was already bound and.
This is what it would look like. So that was I wanted you to see what the finished product would look like, and then if you feel that things are missing in it, then it's certainly welcome any feedback.
Distribution of this guide you covered. What was the intent of getting this out into people's hands? People that come in to your office?
Yes, as folks come in, because one of the things that people will do when they come in and they meet with me is like they have an idea, they're looking at business, I'm opening up a business, how do I go about it, what do I need to do? If Dennis is in, I usually will pull him in on the codes aspect of things, and then with Twyla on what needs to paperwork that they need to fill out. This really lays it out as far as on the steps that they need to do, so they can kind of get this information ahead of time and then be able to come in and hopefully will help them make things a little bit easier.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Doing business visitations, that is something that we continue to do. Most everything now has been wrapped up as far as within the grants and the facades and getting out to those folks and seeing how they're doing. On October 10th would be a Wednesday from 5 to 7 at Furniture Superstore. We'll be doing a after-hours event, and this is out and about with town government. So that flyer has been posted, and it's out there. And we have an agenda all set for that as well, and it's basically going to be going over some of the projects. This will also be a way to inform folks in regards of the upcoming referendum questions for the fire truck and those capital improvements as well, and what's going on. Networking with the local agencies and developers, and that continues on. Vacant properties, we're losing a lot of them. So now when I'm getting calls as far as what's vacant, a lot of what I'm seeing now in the area is homes that are coming available along 196, which will be great as far as for any type of commercial development as well. So I'm steering folks that way. As you know, and with Nate speaking, the grant opportunities, so I will work with the fire chief and help him go through this grant and see what we can get with that. And then, of course, a new one regarding the Moxie transition to the Parks and Rec. So, again, being able to seek more grants, having that transition over will certainly free me up to do some more grant work for the community. So that's it, unless folks have
other questions of Tracy, you guys?
Just one, as far as for your out and about evening coming up at the furniture, are you looking for people to respond back to you to get?
I did ask for an RSVP because, light refreshments is really going to be that, but, being the one that always wants to make sure somebody can come in and have a cup of coffee or something. But I went and I met with Doug up there, and we have it set up on how we're going to set everything up. It'd be nice, comfortable chairs for people to sit in, that's for sure. But he's very excited to be able to host this at his venue. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have a previous engagement, don't you, RSVP?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving right along. Library.
Assessor.
Assessor, I'm sorry.
By order? Yeah.
Well, library was next.
Yeah. Did we change it?
Oh, must have been.
Yeah, we did.
Sorry.
Hi,
See, if we just had a pad, we don't have that.
Kathy Malloy, assessor. Let's see, the first one was to make the property record cards available online. We have a signed contract with Trio. Should have been up by now, but this is Trio, so I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks they'll be available. The other thing was to share the responsibilities of the addressing officer with the code enforcement officer. We kind of work something out that Dennis actually is the one that goes out and measures and assigns the addresses.
I was told.
Yes, you were told.
Didn't work anything out.
No, I just told him, and I didn't listen when he grumbled.
Wait.
I ignored him.
She told the story first. You're clearly backpedaling. She's the one that's right. Not so much.
Tell him that. I tell him all the time.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, he goes out and measures and assigns the addresses, and I enter them into E911 and do the post office letter.
Okay.
So that works. Right, Dennis? Right. Okay. Number 3, I didn't do anything. Tracy came to me, and it was I don't know if it was right before commitment or right after, and it was like, don't even want to hear it. It was too busy. But the only thing I have done on that, I reached out to Corson GIS. He's our mapper. And at one time we had these maps. They were probably 20 by 30, and they showed the whole town with all the streets. Well, we don't have any more. They're gone. And he said he would get me a quote. He thought it would be reasonable, but what he thinks is reasonable and what I think is reasonable, I don't know. But that's really nice to hand to new people coming to town. They can see all the streets, so he's going to work something up for that. And then this succession planning, we do have a new part-time employee in the codes office, and trying to expose her so that she is familiar with all the processes and is aware of the deadlines and where things are and how things should be done and where to go to get information, so that whether I'm here or somebody else is here, she knows how the office should operate. So that's going well.
Good. Any other questions, Assessor? Thank you. Now we're library, right?
Maybe.
Oh, you look at your list. Library.
Good evening, members of the Town Council and Town Manager. I'm Diane Natto, Library Director, and I'm here to give you an update on our goals that were presented to you last winter. The staff and I have worked hard to attain our goals this year, and always the work was to improve services to our community and to offer the best library services that we can. Our first goal was to continue to move the Lisbon Library forward in the new mill system. When these goals were presented to you, we had approximately 10,000 more items to enter into the 14-digit barcode system. We are down to, as of the 25th of September, we're down to just 5,000 of the original 39,000 items that needed to be re-barcoded into the system. So that's amazing in that period of time that we're able to do this. And kudos to my staff, especially my cataloger, Cindy Medlin. She just goes at it like just a mad band. She just wants to get it done. We have been with Mills since May of 2017, but we I really felt that we needed to get a head start on this just because of the sheer volume of books that we had to process. So we had the foresight, and we were given permission, thank you, Mrs. Barnes, to buy these professional barcodes the previous November in 16 and start this process. So we were able to hit the ground running, and it's made that difference. So we're very happy with that. The second goal was to expand the interlibrary loan services. So we have reached out to our patrons via our Facebook page, the Lisbon's webpage, and good old-fashioned paper handouts to explain and encourage this wonderful service available to them. It has given our patrons the opportunity to order from the convenience of their personal electronic devices, to borrow from almost all types of libraries. The ones that are really hesitant are their school libraries. You can borrow now from medical libraries, most of the colleges, even the private colleges, and most of the public libraries, no matter what size you are in the system now. So it's wonderful. And it offers millions of items when you think about this to them at a fingertip. They click and it arrives. It's just wonderful. We average about 175 items for our patrons every month that come through our doors, and they go home for a 3-week period and really happy. We box it, it goes back. It doesn't go on our shelves. That's the other beautiful part of this. We send out approximately 160 to 175 of our wonderful materials to other main libraries. Just to let you know, our books have traveled as far north as Fort Kent, Maine. They've gone to Kennebunk and then out throughout the state to Rangeley and Calais. So we're out there. So it's wonderful. They're all, of course, they say property of Lisbon Library, and people are aware that we have a good library. So we're proud about to have that. They enjoy books, audiobooks, music CDs, DVDs, and recently they've added new computer games, and they're loving that. They're getting these computer games that they can borrow for 2 weeks and not have to buy it because, gee, it's not what I thought it was. And so it goes back to Portland or Falmouth, and so it's wonderful. So, and language tapes. They've added language tapes, so it's great. Patrons of all ages take advantage of this service now. It's wonderful to see a child get his first library card, 6 years old. And we give the handout, and they're excited, and they do this. They go home with their little smartphone and order something next in Wimpy Kid or something, and it's just wonderful. And then we have the other side of the coin. We have many senior citizen patrons who do the same thing. Either they do it on their smart phones, or they come to see us and we order for them. So you have the whole community involved with Interlibrary Loan, which is wonderful. So then we had number 3 goal, and that was to weed the collection. I was successful in weeding the adult nonfiction collection this fiscal year. I began this project in September of 17, and it was completed on April 18th, 2018. I handled and assessed every book to ensure its continued usefulness and timeliness to our patrons, the value to our collection, and certainly to the entire mill system. I withdrew 899 titles and was successful in purchasing 350 new updated titles in many subjects that include medicine, self-help, technology, science, and home improvements. And I continue to purchase updated nonfiction titles as they become available. Our nonfiction collection now reflects our community's interests and their needs. They're pleased with the new selections that we put into the collection, and they feel the stacks are more browsable. They don't feel that they're so jam-packed that anything is going to fall because they're just so full. And I'm also very proud that we were able to share many of our withdrawn nonfiction titles with the Veterans Hospital in Togus and the VA centers throughout the state of Maine. And I thank Don King for stepping up and helping us with that. and her team of VA veterans who delivered them. So, and we got these nice thank you letters from the veterans, very touching, and we were happy to step up. And so now I continue to assess the adult fiction collection, and I will follow the same strict procedures to ensure the collection is maintained at all state levels. We also were, one of our goals was to adapt the children's programs to reflect the juveniles' continued changing needs. We all know that. They just change quickly. So we expanded the summer reading program, and we added what we considered a big name kickoff program this year for the first time. And we offered Magic with Peter Bois, and we filled the MTM gym. I mean, it was just jam-packed. And that brought more kids to our program because they thought, boy, this is going to be fun. So for the next 6 weeks, I'll go to the library. We continued both the Tuesday afternoon program and the Tuesday evening to convenience children and their families, and that was successful. We're very proud of our children this summer. They read 1,463 hours in 6 weeks, and that broke last year's record-breaking reading count. So good job, Lisbon children. We also collaborated for the first time with the Recreation Department to offer them and their summer campers their very own summer reading program. So every Thursday morning, about a dozen or so MTM campers and their counselors made their way to the library, and we offered the same program as we did to the other children, but for their group. It was very successful for the children and for the library, and we will continue to work with the rec department throughout not only the school year, but certainly come back and offer this tailor-made summer reading program to them next year. It was successful for both the rec department and the library, and I think it's just a good mix, and it's something that we can let other communities know and share. So I'm proud of that as well. We've refocused our attention to the weekly programs. The preschool story time is getting off to a slower start this year, but we average maybe 5 or 6 every Thursday afternoon. Our Friday after-school programs are kicking off nicely. Parents are happy to have someplace to go on Friday afternoons with their little guys. Our Lego program is still very popular. And our Crafts with Claudia has seen a big increase in participation. She's worked very hard to develop clever and fun crafts for all ages, including the younger siblings who accompany the bigger kids on Friday. They were being left out because they were a little bit too complicated, so she's developed, you know, if Big Brother is doing this with beads and stuff, the little guys do something similar, but much easier for them. So parents are happy we can accommodate their entire family. We continue to research science programs, and recently, with the help of parents and patrons, we developed, and I have to read this, Animation Stop Motion Video Club. And the children developed their own little videos on their smartphones and showcase them on our Facebook. And it's the cutest little things. And we're up to 14 kids that come in to do this, and they're having a blast. So we're happy to do that. And, of course, we'll continue to research ways to keep reaching more kids. That's our intent. Let's get as many children as we can. The fifth goal was to expand our adult programs. And, of course, you'd been told about the 2 previous authors we had. And since I've spoken to you, we brought in another main author, and his book was Mainers on the Titanic. And people were just amazed of all that he presented. We've not offered any fall programs yet due to the pending shutdown for the carpet replacement project. We're hopeful when we come back that we offer 2 before the holidays. There's a Maine Vietnam vet who has written a book about his military experiences, and we think that would be a good program. And there's also a Maine cookbook writer who we'd like to get to share her recipes just in time for the holiday baking season. We'll continue to coordinate with MTM so that we reach as many people as we can, his programs and our programs as well. And our last goal was to research ways and equipment to maximize first floor spacing. Certainly the pending carpet replacement and back room heating upgrade will help our space needs tremendously. We'll regain those 14 shelves in the back room that we lost last January to the frozen pipe. And of course the weeding I did in the nonfiction has made a tremendous amount of difference as well. We've consolidated the paperback service. There used to be 2 huge racks in the front room, and they took up a lot of space. And we felt that we could consolidate into one and still make it browsable and current, and people are okay with it. This gave us the opportunity to offer our public computers more privacy. The study carrels now aren't side by side. People aren't comfortable with that, so now they're all back to back, and people are happy with that as well. And when the first floor is empty, we'll take that opportunity to see if we can't reconfigure some of the workspaces for staff to maximize that first floor. So those are our goals and the work we've been doing.
Any questions? Please.
Yeah, it's all exciting stuff, and one thing that you didn't mention, I think, was actually from the outside people could see was the flower boxes out front this year.
Aren't they wonderful?
Yeah,
they're,
actually, I think
yes, they're in memory of Linda Patrick, and we are just getting so many compliments still, not just from her family, but friends, patrons, visitors to our community who go to Mr. Bono's and come down to the library, and they're just wonderful. They have made such a difference in our Main Street look. Yeah.
Yeah, they look nice.
And we've just transitioned to our fall display, and people are liking that as well. And the family had bought little memorial plaques, and because the red flowers were cascading all summer, we weren't able to. So if you drive by, or you probably not when you drive by, but when you walk by, and they're each one, and I believe it says, Linda Patrick, her memory will always blossom. So we're very honored to have that as well. So.
Anything else?
I have a question for you. I've noticed on the side of the building down there where we had the very nice murals, but unfortunately they left kind of a stain on there and it didn't really come off. I'm wondering if maybe we could work with that artist and see if she could put something permanent up there instead of having a disfigured building. Let's make it beautiful right there. Yeah, it might be something to look into. I think it looked really nice when we had those murals there. It was really great, and I'd like to see something go back in its place. If it's not with her, someone else maybe.
Yep, absolutely.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I will take just another few minutes to give you an update on the upcoming carpet project, if you don't mind. I was asked to do that, and certainly I would love to get you up to date what we're doing. All the pieces of the puzzle are in place. I've been working with Dennis Douglas and Tom Martin to ensure we move this project forward and get it completed with the least amount of impact to the Lisbon citizen. The first storage unit was delivered yesterday. It's in the parking next to the library between the fire station and the library. I checked with Chief, and it should be okay. The 2 pods would have been problematic for his trucks, but with one, he's okay if he has to go out an emergency call. The second one will be delivered the 1st of next week, I believe, and will be on Union Street. So we've already started to put stuff in the first one today. That's how quick we're trying to move this forward. And the library will close this coming Saturday, October 6th, at its regular time at 2 o'clock. We will take the next week, my staff, 5 volunteers, to report to work on Tuesday the 9th and begin to box the books and label those boxes so they're labeled to get into the storage unit. So they make sense when we have to bring them back. It won't be this mess of what's on first, who's on second stuff. And I'm pleased to let you know that I was able to get help from the Lisbon High School Key Club, thanks to Detective Tapley. Some of their club members will join us at the end of their school day on Tuesday, and hopefully I can keep them the rest of the week. So some able-bodied young volunteers is what we need, frankly, so happy to have them. Public Works Department will join us on Wednesday the 10th to disassemble the shelving units and get those and the furniture into the storage unit. And I would like to thank PW in advance. They're always very generous with their time and help with our library needs. I know they're busy, and to do this is tremendous, so we thank them. Dennis Douglas has been very helpful and generous with his time to make sure this gets done as well. He's the one that took on the guy yesterday with the storage unit, had it facing backwards, I guess, but Dennis took care of that. So thank you, Dennis. We'll continue to do to get everything out of the first floor, front room, back room, and we'll be out by the end of the week ending 10/13. The following Monday, on the 15th, Drew's carpeting service will begin the removal of the old carpeting and laying the new carpet squares, and he feels that he'll be out by Friday the 19th. My staff, the volunteers and PW return, and what we're calling it is put Humpty Dumpty back together again on the 22nd. Hopefully we can do that within a few days and then be back in action by the end of that week. If things change, certainly I will be in contact with the town manager every day about this, and certainly if there's other changes that, you know, would impact us significantly, we would get that to you as well. And we'll let our patrons know all the way through this what's happening. And I'm working with the state now to, we call it to pull the switch, or, you know, on the whole interlibrary loan business, because it's not fair to have these things sitting in bins for 2 weeks, because all the computers will be pulled, so we'll go dark. And so we don't want them borrowing from us, and certainly, you know, we don't want our patrons to think that these are sitting there when they're not. So that should happen tomorrow. I've been in touch with the state. And nothing will be overdue. Our patrons know that. There'll be no fines. They'll just come back, and hopefully they're happy with the improvements. And we welcome you to come visit during this period of time.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Hopefully it all goes well. Sounds like a big undertaking.
So to recap, you guys are going to be closed from October 9th until roughly later in the week of October 22nd.
That's correct, sir. That's our hope.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Code enforcement.
Council, Dennis Douglas, Code Enforcement Office. Just to give you an update on goals, I think I had a couple of them listed back when we did it. One being the business guide, working on that. Tracy spearheaded that. I don't have to get too much into that. You've already gone through that. Been working with her on that piece. So that was one of the goals. That's in draft format now, ready to finalize. I think the other one was focusing on 196, primarily the entryways to the town. If you guys drive 196 at all, hopefully you're starting to see some of those results. One of the biggest eyesores on the Lewiston side has been completely cleaned up at the gateway there, which was a big task. That one's been taken care of for the most part. It's an empty building now, but at least it's not what it was. A few others down that way that we're working on now to hopefully continue that along. You do notice that when you start doing some of these things, other abutters start taking care of their properties, so you kind of see some of that happening, which is nice. On the other end of town, on the Topsom side, the biggest issue there was a night Celotex plant. We do have an agreement in place with the owner of that property for May 1st, being the final cleanup on that property. So hopefully I'll take care of that. And up the same property, but up the hill, Kieran Johnson moved his transport business to that side, which just got full approval on Thursday night's planning board meeting. If you look at that, you'll already see the rocks and buildings being redone and the landscaping going in. He's converting that existing metal building that houses material. He's converting that into his truck repair shop or trucking center for his trucking business. So that will help take care of that entryway on that side. So working on the entryways, actually focusing a lot on 196. Tracy brought up some of the projects, as you can see, but if you really pay attention, there's a lot happening on 196 from the state, from the town, from what I do in code enforcement, what Tracy does in economic development. So I will tell you, it's getting a lot of notice outside of this community. Getting a lot of comments in a couple other towns that I work with. People are noticing it themselves from out of town. So that's a good thing. So those are the goals. From a permit standpoint, thought we set a record last year, and I've already passed that. This year we've written over 120 building permits already, which was, I think, 120, if I remember right, was the total last year, which I thought was way over previous years. We're at 120 already, and it's just the start of October, so it has been extremely busy on the building side of things, from remodeling to new buildings to everything. So that's been very good to see. A little disheartening to hear some comments earlier on not being business friendly. I work my ass off in this town to be business friendly. Unfortunately, sometimes there's rules in place that we have to follow, and lots of times that's all it is, just a matter of following procedure. I fill out most applications for people to help them out, work my tail off that way. So we work very hard in our department to be pro-business and whatnot, and I think the evidence is seeing what's happening out here. So with that said, that's my goals and where I'm at with them.
He's gotten saddled with town buildings. Are we going to hear on that one a little later? Because that was originally one.
Oh, I didn't have goals on that, but I can give you an update on where I'm at with town buildings if you'd like. So
buildings, if you could.
So I got saddled with town buildings. Was kind of told it wouldn't take much. There's a lot of work there if you really want to do it right and make sure that contractors are treating you fairly and jobs are getting done properly, that sort of thing. So some of the biggest things we're working on right now is the library project, getting that done. That's a
Some of that you probably can deal with. Some of it's gone away now.
Right.
Oh, Ryan had a list before me.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
I got you. Well, I'll just tell you what I'm working on primarily. One of the first things I did was rekeying everything through the town office, so we now have key charts. The only thing left to do is actually label the hardware on the doors with the numbers to make it very easy to locate that key in an emergency or something if somebody had to. But all been rekeyed, all new keys, new master keys. That was one of the projects. Had a number of plumbing and electrical projects that have been completed, primarily the fire department. Both places were being charged for their water coming in on their main lines, what they use to wash trucks and everything. That was determined that didn't have to happen. They could transfer that over to a smaller line. Just got that work done, so now hopefully it costs a bunch of money to get it done, but that should make up for itself in future costs for water. Some electrical stuff, doing some stuff for the PD down here, town office. The one big thing that hasn't been addressed yet, and it's really the one I wanted to address the most this year. A couple reasons why. I won't get too much into that, but we got a lot of stuff on the outside of this building that has to be taken care of. There's a lot of upkeep. Front columns are rotting away out front. Our presentation at the front door is horrible, has been for a long time. The front door is, if you ever look at it, it's a mess. And the trim work's a mess and it's rotting. We got a lot of trim work and cleanup stuff to do on the exterior. Trying to get that done in October if I can. If not, it'll just be a spring project for painting. But bigger projects, library, back to the library, flooring project's a pretty big one. When I came on, they had talked about doing $100,000+ rack system in the library to solve her space needs. We kiboshed that. We can literally put a couple wall heating units in to take care of where the baseboard was behind the books, eliminate those baseboard runs behind the books so she can have her bottom shelves back. Working with Diane, that gave her plenty of space that she needs to have those bottom shelves replace what she was missing, and therefore not have to spend $100,000 on a special rack system. So we're doing all that heating work, I think, for a total of around $6,000. So that was a pretty good price saver there, and she's going to get all the space she needs, and with new flooring, it'll look nice in there. So it is difficult dealing with a lot of the women that are calling me the library's going to be closed. It's the end of the world. It's something council should know, that it's a very valuable resource to a lot of people. I'm hearing about that now. It's not my fault that we have to close for 3 weeks. But I'm telling you right now, I live with one. My mother's not impressed. But there's a lot of people that actually use that library, and actually being down there a little bit more, I see that probably more than I have in the past. But it's, I will tell you, outside of this community, working for Sabatis, one of the number one complaints they get is that they don't have a library. A lot of people coming in don't complain about that. So I think it is a very valuable asset for the town. So good to see that get done. One of the back fencing needs to get done out back. We've held off on that right now because we're working on that parking lot situation that could have a lot line problem where the fence could possibly be over the line. We're just waiting for a survey to determine that. So we don't want to fix the whole fence and whatnot and then find out it's over the line and have to tear it out. So as soon as we can get that resolved, hopefully we'll take care of the last few issues that Diane has down there for my building maintenance. Outside of that, just got to deal with, I got to deal with the generator for the PD. That's got to get serviced. We've got some hot water that we just ran recirculating lines to the locker room down there because their hot water takes 10 minutes to get hot down there. It's been a problem forever. They just never had a recirculating line, so the line had to go all the way from the water heater in the main building to get to there. By the time you're done doing whatever you're doing before you get hot water, so we ran a recirculating line, so it's continually hot water, so it's at the touch of a button. We just need an electrical outlet put in. So small stuff like that. Many more things to do on that front. Done a lot of stuff over at Beaver Park, so just attack that list as I can. So with that said, I don't know what's on this list. I can tell you here. Study needs to be completed with respect to the integrity of the Finance Public Works Wing. I have no idea what that means. I haven't done anything with that. 385 Lisbon Street demolition. 385.
We sold that building.
Oh, okay. Yep. That's
just,
actually
yep.
permitted, haven't been in rehab now. So, police and town office employee entrance overhangs.
I think that's basically what you're talking about is the entrances.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bigger project we got to get into at some point is the back where the PD is and all those major roofs that come down. Everything comes right down on our condensers outside. It's a really poor situation. So I've been looking at trying to put a design where we could actually extend a roof out over, keep it open, post it, keep it open underneath, but have the roof over and wrap it right around that side, and it would essentially cover all those items and really extend their longevity. And give you some undercover storage space as well that wouldn't be exposed to the elements as much, and could help take care of one of the problems Public Works has is the amount of snow that comes off this roof and piles up at the windows. You'll see in the wintertime, I think Diane's office or Megan's office, you can't even see out the window. It's but you have those valleys with this massive roof system, especially the new metal roofs, just slides down and it buries that side as well, buries our condensers. So that's a bigger project. I'm still working on that piece to figure out a solution to that. Long-term HVAC upgrade, I've got Patriot Mechanical. I think they've done it in the past. The only thing they were asking if I had a digital set of plans on the town office building. I haven't come up with that to help them out. They're putting together a cost estimates for us to really address the heating system here. I'll be honest with you, it's nothing but a pain in the ass. The air conditioning system's been a nightmare this year. Humidity, as you know, we had some very humid times, but we had accidents here because the floor is so wet just from the humidity. We got a 12-degree difference from one end of the building to the other wing, so I get people down here that are sweating all summer, and down on the other end we're freezing. You can't get it balanced out. If you were probably to look at the history of what we spent on servicing this system, it would scare you. We could have just ripped that whole thing out years ago and done something different and probably been way ahead. So one of the ideas now is these mini splits. They're highly recommended them, but we could actually put ones in each unit. They can run to a single big condensing unit out in that back side, which would eliminate a lot of that other equipment. We might not have to do that whole roof system. They're working on those estimates now, but that would give every individual office their own control, which is heat and air condition. They would leave the existing system we have here. There's no way to take it out. There's no access to get that system out, so they kind of built that up there and closed it in. But if we leave it active in the event that we had some extreme weather situation, you have that as a backup system to provide heat in the office in the wintertime. So the mini splits couldn't keep up or something on a stretch of extreme cold. But I was working on that just to bring to you guys, show you the cost of doing a whole overhaul so we can kind of weigh that option. But the systems here are just a never-ending chase. I'm still having a hard time understanding some of it. We have Siemens that I just had to have them program a thermostat, which I'm sure a guy does from his laptop in 30 seconds, and we get a $380 bill, to program a freaking thermostat. But Patriot Mechanical, that's not part of what they can do because of the system. I'm still trying to figure this thing out, but it's not economical from what I can tell. So ultimately, that's probably a big one that will come at you as soon as they have all the numbers together, and we can look at that option. And library shelving, we went over that, so that's where I'm at.
I think, may I?
Please.
I think number one was actually the entry door coming into the finance wing, where certain time of year you can actually see through the wall, outside wall, and the main wall actually separate a little bit, and you kind of look through the edges.
Yeah, you can look the cracks in the corners here where the building settles and moves.
I think that's what that was actually detailing at the time.
I know there was also an issue with the columns out front. Some of them have.
That's what I say. The front entry, the bottoms are rotted.
Right.
They need a lot of attention. Our entry, exit signs, our lighting. There's a number of building upkeep things here. So I don't want to get into it too much, but honestly, as soon as the tax bills went out and people got another raise of taxes again in this town, my phone was ringing off the hook with people wanting their neighbors' properties cleaned up because they want to either sell, they're fed up, or if I'm paying this much in taxes, then I want my neighbor, I'm getting those calls constantly on that end. So I didn't think it was good to dump a bunch of contractors sprucing up the exterior of the town office right now. I was letting that dust settle a little bit before I had them out there doing that. So that was my only reasoning behind not getting to that point yet. But
Other questions? None?
Covered it, I think.
Thank you. Yeah.
Chris Burnell, Lisbon Center, 328 Lisbon Street. A code enforcement here just made a statement about working his ass off about businesses and people in town. I've been looking for a property for over a year. We put in a closed bid. We got 385 Lisbon Street. I went to see Dennis, our code enforcement, about getting permits. He told me that he was informed that there were some turnbuckles inside my building, that if you took them out, the building would fall. He didn't have no structural engineer tell him that. He couldn't even really tell me who that was. I told him I had a contractor. That gave me suggestions about what I should do to my building. Our code enforcement guy told me I needed a structural engineer because my building leaned. So I said, okay, whatever you're trying to tell me. We went about cleaning the building out. I came to try to get a permit from Dennis. Dennis said he wouldn't give me a permit until I had a structural engineer. And I said, well, my contractor. And he said, well, there's your problem. He says, whoever gave your contractor a hammer should be punched in the throat. That's a quote from our code enforcement guy right down here in the hall.
I'm going to interrupt. I don't think this is the appropriate time or place for this. This is not the appropriate.
You can interrupt all you want. I was just told I could talk. Was I not told I could talk? Did he not make a statement about me and said that he most certainly did? He didn't come out and say Chris Burnell, but he did. You heard it. Everybody sitting up there heard it.
Point of order.
Yes. I'm listening. Go, keep going with what you got. Get to the point.
The point is, he's trying to tell me he's about business in this neighborhood, and I'm telling you he's not. Okay? Again, feet's been dragged heavy because
Again, I'm going to call a point of order.
He's getting to the point.
That's
point
not
is
the point.
That
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Next item.
There are no appointments. Council communications.
Anybody have anything they'd like to communicate? Seeing none, next item.
Audience participation and response for new items.
Anybody having anything they'd like to? Yes, Dot.
Dot Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls again. Reading the minutes of the September 18th meeting, the town manager's report, she said that LDC Group had a discussion on how to spend remaining funds for the facade grant and looking quotes. Anyway, she said if there was anything left, they will go back to LDC to see if they could get more benches. I'm wondering if there is any money left, would it be possible, I mentioned a couple of meetings ago, a plaque or something where at the garden where the wheels are. Would it be possible, I don't know if that is even allowed, that wouldn't be allowed in that?
Yeah, and I don't believe there's going to be any money left, but that wouldn't be allowed under the grant.
It wouldn't be allowed anyway, yeah.
No.
I kind of thought it would be
It's a nice thought, but the grant has its guidelines, and that's just not an appropriate purchase through the grant funds.
It was, the Warumbo Mill was a historic building, and it would just be nice to have it remembered somehow. Image of the building with the date that it was built and things like that. I thought. Probably shouldn't mention this, but I haven't mentioned the School Street Speedway for quite a while. There is a speed limit sign when you come on to School Street. I think it would be visible for low-flying aircraft. The sign is quite high on the post. I've noticed that speed limit signs and other signs along the street now, and I know Public Works is really, really, really busy, and this is kind of, not at the top of their list, but street limit signs now are basically at eye level, and this one is pretty high up on the post. So I just thought I'd mention it if it were a little bit more eye level.
Yeah, Tom, look into that.
Well.
Thank you.
Usually what happens, Dot, is when they make them low, they're more susceptible to somebody spray painting them or doing vandalism to them. That's why they kind of raise them up a little higher than the average kid can reach.
I see. But most of the new ones now are lower to the ground, more at eye level. And like I said, that would be the one there is more appropriate for low-flying aircraft, or maybe
A lot of
drones.
kids walk up and down that school
Or
street.
maybe drones. Thank you.
Thank you, Dot. Anybody else? Next item, 12.
Executive session order 2018-220 to go into executive session per 1 MRSA section 4056C, acquisition or disposition of real property or economic development.
Make the motion.
Will we be coming back?
Yes.
So the public can wait in the wing if they're interested in hearing what we actually will come back with. If not, dismissed. I have it first. I need a second.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
5-0.
Can we keep these, or are we handing them back in?
You can keep it.
We can keep them? Cool, thank you.
I'll reprogram.
No, I didn't get a chance to really look through it well, so I seen it was on electronic, but thank you.